this Parliament. We start by acknowledging you as our great God of this country, the Creator God, the God of this universe. You stop, now me plus stop. From everlasting to everlasting, thou art God, the omniscient, the omnipotent, and the omnipresent God. Father, me plus talk thank you, Lord Parliament, and the fact that you've given all members, including our Prime Minister and Ministers of Cabinet, the health and the strength to come before you this morning to conduct the business of Parliament. Father, we want to start by acknowledging our sins as individual leaders and also the sins of our nation. Please forgive us and cleanse us as a people group and us as your servant leaders this morning, and accept us into the beauty of your holiness. Father, as we start Parliament, we will ask him, Lord, wisdom, presence below you, now anointing, Lord Speaker, below House, where we can share him good this last session today, as we commence the session of the last session for this week. Father, me pray by blessing Prime Minister, Ministers of Cabinet, Leader of Opposition, our members of Opposition, and all members of Parliament. We will commit him session today, go on below you. Ask him presence and guidance below you, so that these ends we reach today, including laws that we will pass, will be laws that you will accept and approve from heaven. Thank you, Lord, bringing me below the come, below committee session, go on below you. Now ask him special blessing below you today. Father, we will now say the Lord's Prayer. Yes, we am teaching me below. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Honourable members, I inform the Parliament of the death of Mr. Alfred Pogo on 5th August 2021, a former member for Finchapen Open Electorate. He was elected to the 6th National Parliament in a by-election in September 1998, following the dismissal of the then sitting member, Mr. Yaib Avini, from office. During the term, he served as a member of the Special Committee on Public Service and Public Sector Reform, Deputy Chairman of the Special Committee on Foreign Affairs and Donor Agencies from November 1988 until July 1999, and Constitutional Development Commission from 10th June to 5th August 1999, and a member of the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Provincial Government Suspensions in December 2000. He also served as a Minister for Defense from 26 July 1999, Minister for Works and Implementation in December 1999 until November 2000, Minister for Transport and Civil Aviation in December 2000, and was given additional ministerial responsibility as Minister for Works and Implementation in March 2001. He relinquished the Civil Aviation portfolio on 17 March 2001 and concentrate on the Works and Transport portfolio. As a mark of respect to the memory of the late Honourable Gentleman, I invite all Honourable members to rise in their places. I thank the Parliament. Honourable members, I have to inform the Parliament that councillors from Day Open electorate in the Western Highlands province are present in the public gallery. On behalf of the National Parliament, I extend to them a very warm welcome. Petitions, notices, questions without notices, 45 minutes. Honourable Member TVWAN.
Thank you. Prime Minister Honourable James Marape, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, maximum councillors blew the place he came now. And when you got time, the start one time now. Breakfast one time all councillors blew me. Thank you through them. So in passing through the Prime Minister, so can you got time one time people. Thank you. Now asking blow me, you know start blowing notice paper or talk to the Minister. Triple Lily ask him to Minister, first asking him now yet plenty of local government council what councillors plenty people start with payroll, some people start with payroll yet. Now suppose usat start allowance or usat no start allowance, you think what in plan now, thinking department we got long and make sure that this local councillors must start with payroll or allowance belong all. Question 1. Question 2, what I'm thinking now, department we got long, all presidents who got thinking of contest the 2022 election. All by staff that go in the contest team, or almost come up with one kind of public servant, almost resign past them. No contest. Question 2. Number 3, voting system of voting presidents. What councillors will vote president or people will vote president? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Member for TVWAN, to ask these 3 simple questions, but they're very important questions. First, the allowance for councillors. We pay councillors when funds become available, we pay them. And we have the record which councillors been paid, which councillors not been paid, that we paid on when the funds become available. Yes, we have not paid last few months, but we'll make sure that we'll make up for it and we'll pay. In the long run, we're making a submission as to NEC would love to approve it, is to put them on the payroll. Even if they get 100 kina, 200 kina a fortnight, that's okay. Like everybody else is, they can be on the payroll. So that's our long-term planning for the council's payments, allowances. Secondly, those councils intending to contest the coming elections. It is far better. We are now sending circulars out to those councillors or those presidents intend to contest, well have to resign, relinquish their positions as presidents so that they can find time to go back and campaign and they can contest the coming elections. So they will be forced to resign. Thirdly, as to NEC will have to make a decision again as to whether the councillors vote the presidents or where the general public can vote the presidents. That again, the responsibility lies with the NEC to make a decision. And Last election, some general public people voted, while others, councillors voted. But we'll make a decision where consistent or uniform with the rest of the country. So we will shortly make a decision. Again, there's going to be NEC submission before the NEC to decide on the terms of councillors. While I have the opportunity to make a mention, the councillors' terms will have to be increased to level with members of parliament for 5 years. That's what we will come back to parliament, and I ask the parliament to help us pass that necessary legislation so that councillors must be given a fair opportunity to represent them and equal opportunity. So 5 years. In the next election, I'm hoping that we will go for the elections in 2022, and the councillors or presidents remain as councillors until when we come back. They keep the office warm while we go for the elections. When we come back, they will go back after, I think, 24. They will go back to election again. So the process has to be, we must ensure to give them 5 years. That's what we intend to do. With this, thank you very much.
Honourable Governor Sepik.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question without notice is directed to the Minister for Lands. And Mr. Speaker, this is in relation to another very public disposal of a public asset to a private sector individual. I understand that there's been a court case that's been ongoing, but now that it's been discharged, we may discuss the issue. Mr. Speaker, in Sepik we've also had issues, and I believe there are other issues in other provinces where public spaces have been taken over by private sector individuals for business and other purposes. Mr. Speaker, as a governor of a province, I feel that we should be protecting public spaces for the benefit of future generations as opposed to disposing everything to the private sector. My questions are as follows. In relation to the latest sale of a very significant public space in Port Moresby, could the Minister explain to the House how that came about, first of all? Second, is it possible for us as a state to go back and seek a review so that this public infrastructure can be available to our people, and not only this one, but where there are other instances around the country where public spaces have been taken over by private individuals? Could the Minister give an undertaking that his department will seek to overturn those court decisions in favor of our people? My third question, who is the custodian and who protects these public services, public spaces rather, on behalf of our people? If there is no such custodian, is it possible for us to bring a bill to the House so that all these public lands are placed in the custody of a state institution to protect them for the future? My fourth question is that, do public rights take principle over private value? If not, why are we allowing it in our systems? And finally, is the Minister able to bring a bill to Parliament to outlaw all future sales of public property to private individuals? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister for Lands.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'd like the Governor for Sepik for the very, very important question. It has been a matter of public scrutiny and controversy over the last few days regarding the Jack Piddick Park. Good plalo, I'm asking the question and we can bake him so the Jack Piddick Park has been a complex issue. Plantiman, a lot of people have been said that it was through this term of government. It had nothing to do with this term of government. Nothing of that thing came over my desk in the last couple of years. M1. This legacy issue. Issue the past government been working this problem, and now we trying to rectify him. This issue was done in 1991. And 20, 30 years ago, something come up. And that you got plenty or something stopped in regard to this. The original, when it happened, there was a title that was held by the TST group that the government at the time wanted to extend the Port Moresby General Hospital. So I'll give him this up-ground law, Port Moresby General Hospital. So one company at the time, the government in its wisdom, in 1991, gave the lease to a company called Boy Consultancy, which is associated with TST. The Boy Consultancy later changed its name to City Centre Limited. So this time yet coming up now, NCDC was not consulted. So NCDC started that battle 30 years ago, fighting with the company that got that particular piece of land, the Jack Piddick. Now court going up now, I think last month, a court order was issued by the National Court, and it has been to court numerous times. You go come plenty of time to court. While it was, the title was given, it was a recreational area. The title at the time of giving the Boy Consultancy was for a business lease, to my knowledge. So now we're studying the thing to see if we can be able to unravel this web of problems, legacy issues. So Jack Piddick Park, now I'll issue him again. And the minister at the time issued the NCDC refused the physical planning zoning. They then appealed to the minister at the time, and the minister at the time upheld the appeal and gave it to the above mentioned company. You know, good plan, you mean? You know, good plan, you mean? And we made that in our decisions at the time. We have some respect for our compadres at the time. So this was something, a complex issue. Now, it's not just a Jack Piddick Park. You got plenty of recreational areas around Papua New Guinea. Plenty of recreational areas. Even back in my hometown in Leyte, plenty of park na oval na kind something or same. All business houses, all kisim, all this park. In my backyard in Papua compound, I've been fighting to get back my own park. That has been a recreational park for the last 40 years. And people have already acquired title to that. So we're fighting that battle too. So my advice to all members of parliament, to all cities and towns, is that you identify recreational oval blipla, identify market blipla, liaise with the lands department, so we can vest those public recreational facilities to your respective towns and city management. So all man no can try misuse him, na apply na, undermine him or something, na kisi more park ball. Picking him, blaming, na abusing, na misusing. So it lies back with our own respective members of parliament. Please identify your recreational ovals, like what we've done in Leyte. We have identified all our recreational ovals, and we have now got the lands department to vest those recreational ovals, drainage reserves. So drainage reserve, now something that needs for the town planning, must vest him go back law. In my case, the Leyte City Authority. In your case, might be the city council there, or the provincial government. That sort of thing. So please liaise with us. So we prevent this. Law is already there. All we have to do is make sure we enforce it. And big plus something. With the back to the Jack Piddick Park, we are in close consultation with the Honorable Governor for NCDC, who is adamant that we fix this issue. And we are trying to sit down and sort it out with him. In light of, we're also taking into account the court orders. So we are also not in contempt of court. We have to follow the law, so we are now waiting legal advice to see how we can pursue the matter. We'll sort him out for the best interest of our people and for the city. So, and this is something. For the governor's case, also the Wewak market, a case in point, was the councillors at that market tried to sell the Wewak market. So I stepped in, protected it, liaised with our good governor, and we are now vesting it back to the provincial government so they can manage the Wewak market. So taimi working mosem kan mantuan ini to go try and come at the ground or something. Everyone with vested interest in it. So we all have to step up and make sure we identify recreational land when I'm protecting the interest of picking any blue I think that's about it. We are putting in some laws. We're working on some laws to amend some land act. So Bampa bring come to parliament, you looking law, protecting more public spaces, too, and also land ownership rights for us in Papua New Guinea. Those will be brought to parliament. Thank you very much.
You have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask him one black question. Golo good Prime Minister of the lands. Again, I'm asking where Governor give him long. This law in relation to long all alienated lands. Some place have been.
Honourable member, you ask him supplementary question or you like ask him no black question?
Supplementary. Because I'm related law, one plan market blow we work. Natural ground where public ground where all local salim.
Marape, you ask him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Make that issue too long. Yawasoro Township, Wewak, Sepik Province, where some ground where me earmark working all public facility was a market. Mr. Speaker, he got all man of location title, beyond lo survey law, Mipla lo district na Sepik provincial government. Title all kisi lo Moresby. Also, I'm like asking this question without notice. Lo good Prime Minister. You know, you confirm him. Lo people lo Wewak na Sepik. He got finished one provincial land board. Still Wewak or no got. Or he got one physical planning board and established finish or no got. Because without lo this law enforcement agencies. This lakan pasin lo kama big plan lo province na district. Lo man kalabim all board long land long provinces na carry mo application come direct long all land board in chala Moresby. Mibla sa foul time all man kisim title na ulguran na develop in this ground. So good Prime Minister, enough you confirm him now. Lord people blame lo Wewak. He got land board or no got. He got physical planning board or no got. Suppose no got, but one time by me walk him. Plan the ground no long come up in this law. All illegal land grabbing or come up. Or even all state land. Alienated land, Sambla all mangrove we work two all man of Carabin Conchella bauxite. Destroy more environment without consent of authorities on the ground. Why? Because this lakan institutions available. Now people look long broken plan the law na kisim plan the ground without looks available all provincial authorities. So Mr. Speaker, enough Minister explaining law flow. Thank you.
Before Marape, Minister of Ground ya beg him ask him law, member of Wewak. Me like share like talk sabe all the honorable members also you know can use supplementary law ask him no ask him but so, Minister, you can beg him to ask him law.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to also say thank you for the important question the member for Wewak has brought up. Good plan, let me clarify some issue too. There's been 13 land boards and physical planning boards approved and delegated from the Land Department to various provinces in Papua New Guinea. I would like the good administration, if you guys can liaise your provincial administrator to liaise with us and our lands department so that we can organize to delegate those relevant powers for lands board and physical planning board to your province so you can manage your own affairs. It is my interest and all our interest that we delegate all our responsibilities for the lands department back to the respective provinces. 13 provinces already have it. The last one that was, I recently last year we delegated the powers for Central Province in light of all the issues that the Central Governor has sometimes raised. We have delegated the Lands Board and the Physical Planning Board powers to the Central Province. We have also delegated that recently to the West New Britain provincial government. And recently we have delegated the Lands Board for Manus because they have liaised with us and approached us in that manner. So I would like, if possible, your province can liaise with my department so that we can also set up proper boards for your province so you can handle your own issues. Thank you very much.
Member for Abau.
I also wish to ask a question without notice to the Honourable Minister for Lands because he's answering all the questions on land very well, so I might as well ask him this one as well. And congratulations, Minister, you're doing an excellent job. My question, Mr. Speaker, relates to part of the issue that the Honourable Member for Kairukuhiri raised last week. And I thought the member was referring to a very important issue which the Minister did not really fully answer. And that was at the expiry of the 99-year lease, state lease, the lease rightly, and the Minister advised Parliament rightly, that the land remains with the state. Full stop. But the Land Act does not stop there, Mr. Speaker. I would request the Honourable Minister to use the Section 133 provision of the Land Act, because the issue that the Honourable Member raised, and also my own, for example, in Abau, we have some very big plantations in the 60s, like the Robinson River, the Gadoguina Cocoa Plantation. Original owners left and the place is far away, no road leading to it, and the landowners want to take the land back. But because of this, the provision that at the termination of the long-term lease, the state still is custodian of the land. But Section 133 actually says, according to my interpretation, and the Minister can check on this, that only on gazettal notice, the land can be declared a customary land. And therefore, the land can then go back to the customary landowners. I really believe that the Minister should look at all this expired land that is far away from the places, like in my case. And I've actually requested the Lands Minister and the Land Secretary to give back a Robinson River land back to the customary landowners because the investors left 40 years ago. And so we requested if this land could come back so that landowners can look for an investor to invest in their big land, very fertile land. So if the Minister can look at this Section 133 and allow for this type of areas to be managed under that provision. If that is not so, may I ask the Minister to, under his intention to review the Land Act, to try and merge the Section 133 and the state still owns the land after a long tenuous period, 99 or 60-year period. So I think the thinking at this stage around the country is, and I know the Minister for Lands is committed to that, that our landowners must benefit from the land. And when I was Lands Minister, we pushed for the amendments and pushed for the voluntary registration of customary land. Some of this land where we know the actual ownership, like the Robe River, we can actually give the land under declaration by gazettal, and the landowners can then be given a customary land lease title under voluntary registration. So they are empowered, they can go to the investor, because there's a lot of forest in there, and they can say, this is our land, we negotiate a forest development package. That's the first question. The second question, Mr. Speaker, that I know that the Minister is very aware of the program called the National Land Development Program. The NLDP, National Land Development Program, I understand has a secretariat, made up of very senior lawyers, and they have been doing an extremely good job. And they have progressed to the phase where, for example, the current land issues that we are facing in Taurama land, Taurama Valley, that the Pari landowners, they've been giving 50 by 50 land and selling them for 30,000 and thinking that they already bought the land off. In fact, my understanding of the Constitution is the land in PNG cannot be sold. You only sell the title, you cannot sell the land. And therefore, the thinking by the National Land Development Program Secretariat is that there is a provision in the Constitution which we can bring a customary land law to allow for example, to effectively manage the Taurama Valley and the Taurama land issues, and that now extending to Gereka. Many people, outsiders, are coming in and buying, taking over that land, which my good governor complained about. And so there is a process that the National Land Development Secretariat is developing, and if the minister could update the parliament on the progress of that particular land development program, and the secretariat doing a good job, so that we can, and the government can use some tools to manage this chaos that is happening in Bautama, in Gereka, and in the Taurama Valley. I think that is the answer. So if I can ask the minister through his speaker, if the minister can look at this program, where it is right now, and may, I understand is that that structure now under the NLDP can go to each member of parliament and help all of us to manage our land issues, like myself in the Robe River and ourselves in Gereka and Bautama. So I think it's a very good progress, and I just request the minister if he can help support the secretariat and inform the parliament after this question, so that we have some idea of the actual structure of that program that I started off when I was Minister for Lands. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the good member for that also very important, relevant question, so we can clarify a bit of issues on the floor of Parliament for our people to appreciate. He is actually right with the Section 133 of the Land Act. So the rights are vested back on the minister to see if after the 99-year lease, and if its land is not really being used like an old plantation or something, then the minister in his wisdom can interpret that act and see if he can assist the landowners. And he actually is right in that matter. But the thing is, I would go one step further and say, why that state lease, let's say for the Honorable Sepuka's electorate in Aba, why would you turn a state lease back into a customary land? It makes more economic sense if the good member for Abao and his landowners sat down, formed a company, and then applied for that state lease and talked to the board and the minister to ensure that they get the state lease and use a state lease as a bankable title that can make them go to the banks and get sufficient funding to go and make a business, which will be a lot more common sense. If you go back and you go and use an ILG, the banks don't accept ILGs. So it doesn't make sense to give it back to them and invest it back to them. It makes a lot more economic sense if the landowners form the business group, apply, come back, now whatever, through the land board, get that thing and make a plantation or kind of something. It would be gladly help the good minister to, the good member for Abao to do that. I would be very well in favor of that.
You make a point of order. What's your point of order, Honourable Member for Abao?
I fully concur with the minister's response in the formation of landowner companies, etc., which we also have done. But our problem is a land board. Land board. Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, that is why we created we gave the powers of the Central Province Land Board powers back to Central Province so they can determine their own destiny. And that's why we delegated those powers to them. And I'd be more than happy to sit with a good senior member for Abao and discuss these issues later on in my office and advise on what would be the best possible way to approach that. But in my own personal view, that I think is that with 99-year lease, you have more chance of having a good economic titles that are bankable. The banks will recognize, they can give you a loan. The NDB people can give you a loan. It can be used for more economic sense in that manner. Also, with the 99-year lease, the title says 99-year lease. And everyone is saying that it should return back to, it gives a little bit more time for me to talk here, to go back to the original landowner. It doesn't. The 99-year lease is specific. The land was acquired in whatever time for whatever price. The state now is the owner of that 99-year lease. They lease it out to a business entity or an applicant or whoever through the lands board. After that lease is expired, the land, if say for example a company in Port Moresby, the lease expires in 99-year lease, then if they have developed the land, they come back to the lands board and apply again for an extension of that 99-year lease, and the lands board, based on the developments, approve and give them back that 99-year lease based on the developments they have done. If they have not done any developments, then that 99 lease comes back to the lands board, and the lands board give it to another applicant who would be in a better position to develop the land. Imagine if all the 99-year leases expired in Papua New Guinea, even we in Parliament would be paying rent to the local landowners now. It would send the whole nation into chaos. It is my job as minister to protect the inherent rights of the Alienated Land Act and make sure those titles are protected. Also, with the other question for National Land Development Program, it is a very good program. We are working on that. The NEC has approved funding for that, and they are currently working on progressing that. I cannot give you details at this point in time because I would probably be misleading you. But basically, the customary land, there's two basic things in Papua New Guinea. About 4% of our land is owned by alienated land. The other land is owned by customary landowners. And we've got to find a way how we can harness and partner with our customary landowners. And to do that, one of the things that the government in its foresight did before was have the ILGs. But we have found a lot of problems associated with the ILGs. A couple of smart people have actually got all our villages together, and they manage the ILGs for them, and they abuse their positions of trust in the ILGs. That is why most of that, they are not actually working in the interest of the villagers. So because 1 or 2 or 3 people are manipulating the system, we are working at a better way to bring it back to Parliament so that we can amend some of those things to ensure our people get protected properly. With ILGs, you also do not get the titles which are bankable. So one of the things that we have done is we have looked at what I call the Roku project. It is down at near Napa, and there's a township there called Tuhava that is starting off. The local landowners, and this is a way to go, the local landowners use Section 10, and they partnered with a good business. They surrendered their ILG, they surrendered their surveyed land, which is customary land, 550 hectares. We helped convert that customary land. They formed a trust. They partnered with this company, and the company now is developing a brand new township in partnership with the landowners. The landowners get all their proceeds and everything which are protected by a trust. So, pikinini blol bol whatever by school fee blol, housing blol but protected, organ something but protected. There will be no squatters or people trying to take over their customary landowners' rights over there. That is for 99-year lease. So this is a 99-year lease. Now it makes it bankable. Now it makes they can go to the bank. Now they can develop with proper partners, and they can protect their inherent rights as customary landowners. So this something now the Lands Department is trying to use that as a project that we can roll out for other provinces. But we need the cooperation of the landowners. A lot of people blame the landowners or blame the Lands Department for customary land issues. Lands Department, me no papa hablo ground blue you. I'm ground blue you yet. When you go and you go sell your land, I don't advise you what to sell. You yet you go and you sell him just like ground blue you. So Papa Ground, you must be very, very clear on this. Protect your lands. Come and see us at the Land Department. Liaise with your provincial governments. Liaise with your members of parliament. come and let us advise you on how best we can pursue your interest to protect your land. You go sell him ground 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, a ben come back and blame him land department or to Mipla walking them to sell. And ground blue, Mipla no sell ground blue. So these things have to be very, very clear. Customary landowners, you customary landowners are the rightful owners. We only help facilitate when you convert it into alienated land. So I hope that clarifies a lot of questions throughout on the floor of Parliament and Papua New Guinea today. Thank you.
Honourable Member must be noticed.
May I ask him question without notice, Minister of Commerce, na industry. Question blow me simple. That's all Minister woglo kalab lo narabla member na. Atin policy I mean implementing. Question blow me also. You me woglo training mama blow me lo SME na micro SME lo country. A national government policy. Lo help him all legally man Mary lo involved the economic sector. Lo only can come up. Business man Mary lo country blow you me so that through by mixing Papua New Guinea back. Cost and blow me easy also. Ta you me training more mama lo SME go. You me lulu was sambla business where online blow you me yet by walking. All Narabla Asian, all Narabla family blame lo the other country only come na take over. Eagle 8 mile, 9 mile, even closer to 6 mile down, no good Narabla up to. So that might happen to the other 22 provinces too. So one time, this law blow SME, blow receive employment, na receive business. Blow citizen of this country. One time by minister, one time team belonging by set him law na protect him. Online blame you side like along business. Because as we can see, foreigners, work law, ego law, all gonna have settlement now. We must come to a crossroad and a talk. It's about time we must make a policy that will protect our citizens. So this law must in place now, Mr. Speaker. Also, I mean, clear questions, so me like ask him, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Commerce and Industry, to tell the nation because SME roll out continuously. And by go, also, me ask him, Minister, some SME talk him, you may long Parliament na atin live atin all Papua New Guinea. All get a watch stop. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And may I talk? Thank you. Lo good question. Member blo notice me Salim Kam na me concerning Department Blomina. One of the hot topics that plenty Papua New Guinea na even this next Parliament me plus away talk plenty time. Mr. Speaker, before I answer the question, I'd like to also me talk. Thank you, lo all past ministers. Only work one time department, now me stop one time. Commerce and industry, lo make him good work. Lo bring him all some paper, he come lo Parliament, lo harim cry lo man Mary, lo make him some changes, lo protect him some all cottage industry business blow you me, now legally SME blow you me. And me companies lo flow blow Parliament, now Mr. Speaker, me talk savio sem department me play sinon me play glass him can he got some legally heavy by stop inside all this amendment only make him come, so me play pull him back. Now me play work close to one time first legislative council. Lo but me play bring him come back and close to time. Now me amamas too lo talk some this play list, but me play make sure that me play give him lo prime minister by announce him lo September next month, September 16, by announce him all this play reserve activity list by you me receive him all countryman Mary by you me. Something where me play like look him 2 time me play pull him back and mosem. But me single him out all this trade store ownership. Where all legally taka box number they come up all get a province na district na you me look him mosem all sampla one talk blow you me larim all come in solo country na. Only walk around kiss him come up him all legally empire blow na legally distribution center blow na all back him all it up, na all gonchalo place blow me, na all walk him all like taka box trade store, na plenty citizen blow me, if you mosem. You may government, you may let him all down, a system blow me from foreign affairs, he come lo IRC, he come all gara, you may let him all people blow me down. So something where me play kiss him back, na me play like ting long mosem. Suppose government make him decision now, na you may put him on come in. By plenty all this blood shop, by you may ask him all, give him back this blood, story come back lo you may. What time frame, by me put him 12 months or 24 months. And then some Papua New Guineans blow me, but only no really kiss him, suppose only sell him back. So Mipla too much look can lo how but Mipla sleep him good SME money lo next year. Suppose this plan may come into force. But Mipla kiss him sila business back. But Mipla must buy him back. Na kiss him na give him lo all Papua New Guineans, especially all locality where this shop is stopped, all council business, all local level government, all legal businessman Mary stop vicinity. Mipla must give him priority to go back law. But we have to be very careful time you may translate him this pla change the Goran because nungut you may talk to karangi by all man Mary lo street kisim karangi this pla talk na ball make him number lo this pla kind sene so time transition he come up. So all this pla kind something we pla look you know trade store to solve but me pla look to lo security business na me talk finish all list pa me pla kisim na give him lo prime minister na emba announce him lo next month. So question blo member blo notice Mr. Speaker I mean good pla question na or something is stop or me na talk more but me pla by bring him come back very soon. So that Mipla Kisim Prime Minister will announce him, and then we will move forward to make sure that we protect those business for Papua New Guineans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Opposition Leader.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions without notice are directed to the Prime Minister. But before I ask my question, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a very serious concern. Mr. Speaker, I was really shocked on Thursday last week during question time to hear yourself make a ruling from the chair that you will not allow members of parliament who have asked questions in the previous sitting day to ask questions again in the next sitting day. Mr. Speaker, I believe that your ruling is unparliamentary. Although it is the chair's discretion to recognize whosoever who wishes to ask questions, but to have a ruling to that effect is a very bad precedent, Mr. Speaker. I'll give you for instance, opposition might have only 4 members of parliament in the opposition.
We have a point of order. What is for point of order? Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition leader ought to have raised that issue in this sitting, rather than ask a question and then raise another statement without even asking the question. So if he wants to raise that issue, Mr. Speaker, then he should put the question to you now. Seek leave to put the question to you. Otherwise, ask his question.
Honourable Member, Minister, your point of order is in order. Honourable Opposition Leader, you can go ahead and raise your grievances to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My concern is that, I might have only 4 members of parliament in the opposition. And if they have all asked a question in the previous sitting day, the next day, if we are not allowed, then the opposition will go without a voice in parliament. So I'm basically saying you cannot limit and say, you cannot make a ruling and say that if you have asked the questions in the previous sitting day, you cannot ask today. That's wrong. That's unparliamentary and unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker.
Opposition Leader, before me larim you ask him question, blow you ba me larim Che clarify him when I me talk him last week. Che me talk all time you me come lo parliament, plan the member of parliament also stand up lo ask him question. Na lo lo try him long be fair lo kata by larim iluk sabe lo usat stand up na emi can ask him this question. Emi no togol sa minanap larim desla member usa di ask him question finish na ba ino can ask him again. Suppose emi desla ruling blood chair mo opposition leader minanap larim you ask him again tete ya. No God. Me look him, me scale him. Planning member also stand up na ali complain. Hey, me stand up na. You no look sabe lo me. Last week one honorable member tu emi salim text lo me. Emisa na plenty time. Na mino luksabe longan, because mi luksabe lo larva member. Emisalim text si kam long, mi na emi asking man, you got bel hebe lo mi o. Mi wokim samla samling na you bel pen longan na you no luksabe lo mi o. So lo despla kind look. Mi try as much as possible, lo be fair na larem, you pla all member can ask him all question. So I think siya clarify mo sem. Lo here lo chamber, siya no look sabe whether you emi opposition, emi government, number you ask him long. No God. Emi look sabe also, member of the parliament, number you must ask him, this will ask him. Na siya look sabe lo this will road. You know look sabe government no opposition, no God. So emi clear a position lo siya. So honorable opposition leader, you now can ask him question by the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. He asking you lo. Call answered, now look in this last statement you make him. By you survey also, exact statement you working ruling also. No can ask him question, can time you ask him, ask the finish. Go na sec him. Go sec him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions without notice to the Prime Minister is that on Wednesday last week, when I asked the questions on vaccination, Prime Minister never clearly informed this Parliament as to the government's policy decision on vaccination rollout. I am getting a lot of complaints from a lot of people throughout the country. Our citizens, their rights, their freedoms, their welfare has been suppressed by companies operating in our country. Mr. Speaker, one company or two companies in Leh, mining companies, are offering 75 kina to subcontractors, 100 kina to employees to get vaccination.
You got point of order. What's your point of order, Minister?
Mr. Speaker, can I clarify to the opposition leader that all vaccines that we send out are free from this government. We have never charged anybody. We don't even give it out to any company. It's done by the National Department of Health. Thank you.
Honorable Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think Health Minister confused Liklik. Me no talk lo price lo vaccine. Me to company work lo impose him law. Lo workman Mary and they are losing jobs. Their rights, freedoms, their welfare has been affected. And if Health Minister can sit down and hear the questions properly before jumping up and down on your chair, like your friend from Medeng. Mr. Speaker, last week Wednesday during question time, Prime Minister is making one blood decision. It's very sad for our country when the Prime Minister is not clear on his policy decision. Let me talk also, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, vaccine is compulsory, but companies are at liberty to protect their business and welfare. My questions therefore are these, Mr. Speaker. Whose interest?
We have another point of order. What's your point of order, Honorable Governor?
Mr. Speaker, I think if you read the Hansard, the Prime Minister said that the vaccination is not compulsory. The opposition leader said compulsory. So I'd like to make that point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Opposition Leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Blomi. Thank you for correcting me. Actually, I meant, Prime Minister made it very clear that vaccine is not compulsory. But companies are at liberty.
It's a slip of the tongue.
But companies are at liberty to protect their businesses and welfare. Mr. Speaker, my concern is, whose interest are we protecting? Are we protecting the interest, the freedoms, and the welfare of our people? Or are we representing the interests of companies operating in our country? My questions therefore are this. Can the Prime Minister tell the people of this country clearly on this floor of Parliament whose interests, rights, freedoms, and welfare do we represent?
Do we represent the interests, rights, and freedoms and welfare of the companies or of our people? Number one question. And I want Prime Minister to answer it very clearly. Can the Prime Minister tell us clearly what is his government's clear policy on vaccination? You cannot say, oh, it's not compulsory, but companies are at liberty. You are leaving the doors open for abuse. As the government, you must come out clearly and make that stand and say, there's only one law. You cannot have two laws, one for our people and one for the business interest. It doesn't make sense. Prime Minister must now come out clearly and say, it's not compulsory. Companies, you cannot impose vaccination.
You mean got another point of order? What's the point of order? You got two block point of order, so me entertaining one block percent. Honorable Prime Minister, what's the point of order?
To get to the question, he should know, the learned opposition leader should know, he's opposition and I'm in government. I don't take advice from the opposition. Get straight to the question, please.
Honorable Member for Ujibitari, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to clarify that companies do have company policies. And I don't know why, when they impose company policies to not to smoke or chew betel nut, we don't raise it on the floor of this parliament. But when they enforce a law within the company or policy within the company to protect not only its employees but the customers that come to their businesses, it is important that they protect their businesses from and their employees against lawsuits. So while the good opposition leader may be trying to raise a question on this floor, he also has to understand that businesses also need to thrive in this particular environment we are in, and they need to also protect their employees and protect their customers. Thank you.
Honorable opposition leader, ask him, Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under whose jurisdiction do these companies operate? We make laws on this floor of Parliament. Either they follow our laws or they break our laws. And we protect the interest, welfare, and freedoms of our people. That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to give advice to the Prime Minister. He is the Prime Minister. He makes the decision. I'm only asking him to make a clear-cut decision. Number three, Mr. Speaker. Can the Prime Minister tell us when his government will table the audit report on COVID funds? Treasurer's financial statement is not an audit report. I need an audit report. Parliament demands an audit report by the government on the 5.7 billion. Treasurer's statement is not an audit report. When is he going to table it? Number four, Mr. Speaker, as the government set up a 24-hour line for our people with symptoms of receiving COVID vaccination, as the government, through pandemic office, set up a 24-hour call line for people who are receiving symptoms after getting vaccination. Number five, Mr. Speaker, how many of our citizens are experiencing, does the Prime Minister know that how many of our citizens are experiencing negative COVID symptoms, and does the government have a data for it? Has the government got a system in place to find out? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll be like, thank you, opposition leader. Long asking about this important question. Time opposition is asking question also mean wrong to emlo. You mean clearing more issues. Country law clear, so me thank you, Lem, asking more question again. Long you may making more clarity. Policy law government long vaccination. Time opposition leader asking whether you got policy or not got. Long vaccination and policy is happiness. You may talk vaccination compulsory. And fundamental foundational policy law vaccination program. But the responsibility of our government of making vaccines available throughout our country. Knowing that COVID is a real threat, and you may experience it in this long parliament, one member is losing life, staff long parliament is losing life. And when we look at the numbers of death in our country as well as right across planet Earth. COVID-19 is a real threat out there, so it will not be responsible of government to make vaccines available for those who opt to be vaccinated. So we clearing again, law opposition leader in law country. Vaccination is now available. In fact, over 4 different vaccine types that is approved by WHO is now available on shelf in our country. If anyone needs vaccines, if the hospital closest to you, you know got vaccine available. And we go to number 4 question, blogger, and we talk with a hotline and stuff. A hotline has been functional in the National COVID Center since you may establish him COVID response long last year, number 3 moon last year. Hotline he work yet, name is stop yet. For line he kiss him COVID-19 or suspect COVID-19 or any other issues relating to COVID-19, our National Control Center has been functional since last year. Ikam in up is still function yet. So the vaccine policy remains clear. It's a compulsory vaccination. Something where we play ting lo make him. Our people, we play respecting right long our people. We said less lo kiss him vaccine, I'm all right. But we said like kiss him vaccine, and vaccine is stopped now. Mr. Speaker, me like also informing Parliament in the country. Our human right is fundamental, but you must also say all this right is also a qualified right. You must exercise right within the context of right narbla too. Narbla too got right. Narbla we operate in the same space. Sinalo same balus want them you. Start a workplace, same workplace want them you. Run one same public space want them you. Got right logan too. He's got right to be protected from COVID-19. Suppose him decide to kiss him vaccine, or say me decide to kiss him vaccine. Now me sit down, me get right long wearing mask, suppose me house and brother me, he knocks him vaccine and me sit down, look at him passing COVID lo me. Me respecting right Logan, suppose him less lo kiss him vaccine. So that policy me clear. Me play not talking about the line of compulsory vaccination. Me play respecting right citizen long decide whether all can kiss him vaccine or no can kiss him vaccine. Now come to workplace, Mr. Speaker. You make clear, workplace too all need to function. And different employers have the right of workplace. Different employers have right to workplace. Workplace safety, for instance, only lo COVID-19. Suppose not lo sick or safety lo work, you go inside on a mining company, you don't have work nothing. You must be on him safety requirement lo this lo workplace. So it comes in that context, Mr. Speaker. Responsibility belong all this workplace. Long one good law, work law, and people passing go back long all. Mr. Speaker, I know something behind that kind of stuff. I understand fully, and I'm first Prime Minister will subscribe. Long right, long all people leave me, but that right is a qualified right. I'm come within the context of responsibility leave me.
What's your point about that?
Mr. Speaker, my concern is the companies are imposing compulsory vaccination. What is your government's position on companies who are imposing compulsory vaccination? They are imposing compulsory vaccination. That's the point. What is your government's position on companies who are imposing compulsory vaccination? This is against the right to freedom, Mr. Speaker.
We have a point of order. Honorable Minister, what is your point of order?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. With due respect to the Leader of the Opposition, if we had listened carefully, the Prime Minister adequately answered the question. In any mining setting, which I've been in the industry over 2.5 decades, mine safety takes precedence over any other factors and issues. So I just basically want to say that the Prime Minister answered the Honourable Leader of the Opposition's questions adequately. And when it comes to mine safety, no one in his rightful frame of mind, including the Queen of England, will compromise mine safety for a mine to operate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, me like bringing this questions or answers come to a close. Me take him example. You look in Fiji, for instance. Fiji will make him compulsory vaccination. I'll make it compulsory vaccination. MIPLA, compulsory vaccination. But all companies only got that right long all. And a company will operate under Companies Act. Company also will operate under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Only got right long deciding one and workplace safety belong company belong. Mr. Speaker, one blah hand, one blah mouse belong all blah asking money blah DSIP. Now blah mouse let me talk. Time COVID-19 is start, let me talk. Mr. Prime Minister, you responsible or shut him down borders. Now blah mouse, we ain't get him to open again borders. Mr. Speaker, the opposition leader is running from North Pole to South Pole, all over the place. There's no steady view in his life.
Okay, Honorable
Enough now.
Opposition leader, I'm asking me to talk about time long and me finish long black time. So see I like you seem discretion long and now lo pass him by no at more ask him na back him by no at more now. So one them display Prime Minister and me like
no time you may ask him money long funding more districts, na provinces, na keep him service running. We need our economy to be functional. We need our economy to be functional, so we find a fine balance between safety of our country and our people, as well as keeping the economy running, Mr. Speaker. And so, in that context, our companies in our country will not be imposed by our government that you have compulsory vaccination. That option remains for them to be open, but they must operate. It is their call to operate in a safe workplace environment. And if they make a call for the employment place to have vaccination, we have no control at that localized workplace, Mr. Speaker. And so, me make him a question long, make him clear long, give me all kind of country also. Government, he put him talk in his big talk, compulsory vaccination. But long, all company, the workplace, for workplace safety, and I mean like talk, thank you, all other companies. Right across this country, so far only respond positively. And I want the opposition leader to be responsible. Long MIPLA, long government, especially the national control. Long one company, I mean feel him, I mean breathe him. This is a pandemic act, you mean where you operate underneath long. A nubla passing where you operate underneath long. So we all take responsibility, long protect him, country limit, long explosion, long COVID-19, but at the same time keep him economy functional, Mr. Speaker. And so at workplace, companies make their own call to what is a workplace habit they feel is COVID sensitive and within the COVID protocol that MIPLA outlined. Number 3, report me like give me assurance long the opposition leader. The team will work on a report in the September sitting of Parliament. That report on expenditure, especially the component we call on National Control Center. This is 5.67 billion kina. Treasury gave a statement last week. Emlo talk exactly what is the intervention government making long ensuring that our budget 2020 and our budget 2021 has sufficiency in financial support to keep our country running. And you look him now, read him clearly, and we embrace him, total interventions government make him in the COVID time we live in. But exactly how much money long National Control Center, the health minister's statement is in fact coming on after this question time, and by making some little, but the full report, hopefully in September is ready, and we will table it to Parliament. Parliament has a view on what has happened in the National Control Center in as far as financial expenditures is concerned. Last question, MTalk hotline. Well, the hotline is still open. Please test your number out, ring the COVID Center hotline today. Anyone who's got an issue with COVID-19, the hotline still remains open. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, asking me to talk about long for 5 minutes and me hurry long finish. Me honorable members, me like informing Parliament to you, me got all visitor, usarol kamlo esa ala open electorate, Millen Bay Province, all staff one time you mail a public gallery. So on behalf of the National Parliament, we welcome you all. Honorable members, we got ask him na big like him to that Parliament yumi mas broadcast mo kata proceedings belongan igolong people blame lo countries all again savelo desla tuso long desla by missing out the house broadcasting committee me bla meet tete na me bla ke to right approve desla and supposed desla I to right come up tomorrow by you start long broadcasting talk sabelong you honorable members Minister of Health, na HIV,